Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Money Anonymous. I'm Kira Jones, financial coach and founder of Financial Intervention Academy. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about what happens when you close your credit cards, can't afford maxed out credit card payments, and a situation with living paycheck to paycheck. So let's dive right into today's episode. So I'm slowly trying to pay off debt. I have 3 maxed out credit cards that I plan to pay off, but they are the last of my debts that I will be working on. I'm just making minimum payments per month, and with all the monthly fees added, it just goes back to being right over my limit or over. What would happen if I called today and canceled my cards, but still paid the monthly payment until I could pay more? Would this be wise, or just pay off and then cancel? Okay, so if you were to cancel your cards, you call them up and close them, those cards are still getting interest. And if you miss payments, they're still getting late fees and over limit fees if that's applicable. So just by calling and closing the card yourself doesn't stop that issue where you're just getting buried in the interest and the fees and that kind of thing. So that's kind of the problem when it's like a vicious cycle once they get to that maxed out state where your minimum payment really isn't doing much of a dent because of all of that interest. So it, obviously if this were the coaching side of things, we would be looking, how can we obviously increase income with any way possible, side hustle, anything. How can we eliminate expenses and go down to like a bare bones or an emergency budget, and then throwing as much cash at this as possible. Now, the other thing would be to stop paying them and let them go into collections, or by stop paying them, I mean at least 6 months of no payment so that they charge off. Like I was saying earlier, once they charge off, there's no more interest, there's no more late fees, the balance is what it is, and then collections tries to just recoup that balance. Yes, it affects your credit score, but it stops the bleeding. And so sometimes when you are just completely maxed out in your budget, you can't eliminate any more expenses, you can't increase your income. Sometimes letting these credit card debts go is what's going to allow you to free up some of that cash flow in your income, so that way you can start shucking away money and then possibly settle these debts at a later date after they've charged off. Yes, for 6 months and more, you're going to be getting collection calls. You can stop those with a simple, when they call, hey, please contact me in writing. Please don't communicate with me over the phone. Just contact me in writing. It's a verbal cease and desist. A lot of times it'll for sure work with third-party creditors. But if it's still in that phase where it's with the original creditor, a verbal cease and desist might not stop those phone calls. But looking at the problem here is, you've got a cash flow problem. And if you can't increase your income or eliminate expenses, something has to be let go. So you can't do a debt snowball if you have no snow to start that little snowball with. You can't really take any of the debt payoff avenues if you don't at least kind of have something to start with. So again, getting with a financial professional, a coach specifically, to help you pick and choose which debts you can let go, or which ones you're just going to move forward and just try to pay off as quickly as possible. I have a credit card that we've had since my husband was in the Marine Corps, and opened it in 2018 due to survive. We regret having it, but at the time it was crucial due to our situation, unfortunately. We've been paying on it forever and just can't seem to combat it. It's tying us down, and we can only pay the minimum payment. What are our options to help us in this tough situation? Also, the rate is 18%, just feel stuck and have been told to double the payment, but we cannot. It's doubling the payment or food. We cannot do both. We need advice. So the answer to the last question is going to be a very similar route that I would take with this situation. You've got, 2 options to kind of start at. If you can't eliminate expenses or increase your income, then something has to not get paid. And then again, that comes with evaluating the pros and cons, or, what are the consequences of non-payment? Well, once you stop paying, it'll be 6 months worth of late fees and interest. So yeah, that balance is going to go up. Your credit's going to take a huge hit for not paying. But if you have to let a couple credit cards go, it's probably not going to be the end of the world right now. It's certainly not going to be the end of the world for at least 6 months after charge off. But then, I mean, they usually don't. I mean, to get sued on a credit card debt is usually pretty rare. So I think it's around 27% of debts actually wind up in a lawsuit. So once it goes to charge off, you're kind of at this point, hopefully have enough money freed up in your cash flow that you can start shucking that money away and setting up your emergency fund, which is going to put that buffer between you and life. So when things come up, you're not turning to credit cards. But then also you're shucking away money to be able to settle these debts for a lesser amount. So, a year after the card charged off, you owe 2,000, you call them up, say, I have 1,000, will you take that to settle it? That would be hopefully the goal that you get to in the long term. In the short term, you need cash flow. And so we have to figure out where that cash flow is coming from. So that's really one of three things: increase income, cut expenses, or something else is not getting paid. So maybe doing a priority list and figuring out what is most important to you guys and going down to a bare bones budget. And then, figuring out from there, like, what can you do in order to get some more cash flow in order to eventually maybe settle these debts. Have $14,000 in credit card debt, mostly due to insurance, wedding, and vet bills. I make a decent salary, but feel like I'm left with nothing after bills. I get payment happy and make larger payments to my debts, then end up not leaving myself enough to make it through the next 2 weeks. So I end up having to use my credit cards and basically undo my own payments. Any advice? We're still making payments on our wedding and owe my aunt $3,000 for helping us move. Saving money is crucial. I have a high yield savings account, but I am just not saving enough in the right amount of time. All right. So, again, I would probably start it with this situation with doing a priority list, and let's get solid on like what is most important to you to least important to you. And then, kind of with the other situations, we're really going to evaluate the income versus the expenses. How can we increase income and eliminate expenses? Because in coaching with clients, I use an analogy a lot based on or relating back to the movie Castaway. You need leverage, and the more leverage, the bigger leverage, arm that you can get into your situation is going to help you make progress. So when, Tom Hanks was stuck on the island and he has this tiny little makeshift raft and he keeps going, he's trying to get out to sea to the boat that he sees, and the wave keeps trying to knock him backwards. And of course, as he gets closer and closer to his goal, those waves seem to get bigger and bigger. And that last wave almost killed him. And sitting on the beach one day, and he's looking at that half a porta potty, and he sees the wind in his sails. He sees the solution. He needs leverage. And so with that big sail, he's able to leverage the wind and push him out into those open, calm waters. So like when you're stuck in a paycheck to paycheck lifestyle, that's kind of a similar situation. Like you just need to create a lot of leverage really, really quickly. And so that's where, like with coaching, when we're kind of working on all aspects of your personal finance situation. So dialing into the numbers, how do those numbers make you feel? And then creating a plan, refocus, gain control, set a plan. And so once we can kind of get you some leverage into your situation, eliminate a few debts, increase the income, build up the emergency fund, we're doing a lot of these at the same time. And that's what coaching really helps you to do.
Okay, that's it for episode 4 of Money Anonymous. If you would like to submit a question to be answered on a future episode, you can fill out the anonymous Google form in the description below. This is for educational purposes only. It's not meant to be financial advice, because personal finance is just that. It's very personal. So if you have any experience with anything that we've discussed in today's video, please leave a comment, contribute to the conversation, because with more knowledge, we have more options, and that makes emergencies much smaller. So I'll see you in another episode, and be well, friends.